Returning from her meeting with Hanchard, Lucetta saw a man waiting by the lamp nearest to her own door. When she stopped to go in, he came and spoke to her. It was Job. He begged her pardon for speaking to her, but he had heard that a neighboring corn merchant had asked Mr. Farfrey if he could recommend a good man. He, Job, wished to be recommended and had said as much in a letter to Mr. Farfrey, but he would feel much more certain of getting the job if Lucetta would say a word in his favor to her husband. Lucetta refused to help. She was only anxious to get indoors before her husband should miss her. She said she had no time to speak to him and left him standing on the pavement full of resentment. Meanwhile, Henchard had gone straight back to Job's cottage at Prairie Mill, searched through all his boxes and gathered together everything that he had ever received from Lucetta. Hearing Job come in, he went downstairs to greet him. I wish, said Henchard, you would do something for me, Job. Now, tonight. I mean, if you can. Leave this package to Mrs. Farfrae for her. I would take it myself, of course, but I don't wish to be seen there. Job went out with the parcel, but he saw no reason why he should do anything in a hurry for Mrs. Farfrae, so he stopped at an inn on his way. The drink soon added fire to his resentment, and he looked at the parcel Henchard had given him with a wicked grin. I wonder, he said to himself, what secrets lie in there? The parcel was easy to open. That lady stands high in this town, and I'd like to shame her, he whispered to himself as he greedily looked through the contents he had spilled out before him. And then, by God, it's her love letters that I have got here. Excitedly, he began to read them out loud to anyone who would listen. In no time at all, Job and his friends were making plans to destroy Lucetta Farfrey's good name in Casterbridge. Early next morning, Job delivered the parcel to Lucetta's door. Within an hour, its contents were reduced to ashes. Lucetta, poor soul, almost fell down on her knees in thankfulness that at last no evidence remained of her unlucky past with Henchard. While known planning and plotting was taking place in the lower areas of the town, the respectable people were eagerly awaiting a royal visit. A royal prince was travelling to the west and had consented to stop for half an hour or so in Casterbridge. The council met on the Tuesday before the appointed day to arrange the details. While they deciding to do, Henchard entered the room, dreadfully dirty and untidy. I have a feeling, he said, advancing and placing his hands upon the table, that I should like to meet our great visitor. I suppose I can walk with you. All around were embarrassed, and Farfrey as mayor gave the general feeling of them all. When he said, I hardly think that would be right, Mr. Henchard. The council are the council, and you are no longer part of it. If you were included, why not others? Then I am not allowed to have anything to do with it officially. I'm afraid not, but of course you can watch like the rest of the spectators. Hancher did not reply to that and went away. I'll welcome His Royal Highness, or nobody shall, he said to himself. The morning of the royal visit was clear and bright. The carriages bringing the royal visitor and his followers arrived. and drove up the main street of Casterbridge to the town hall. This spot was to be the center of interest. When the royal carriages stopped, a man stepped forward from the crowd before anyone could prevent him. It was Henchard. He had been drinking. He unrolled his own private flag and removing his hat, he walked drunkenly to the side of the vehicle, waving the flag with his left hand and holding out his right to the prince. Farfrey, with great authority, immediately did the right thing. He seized Henchard by the shoulder and dragged him back and told him roughly to be off. Henchard's eyes met his, and Farfrey saw in them a most fierce hate. Henchard stood where he was for a moment and then backed away. The whole affair only lasted a few moments, and the royal visitor appeared to have noticed nothing wrong. He got down from his carriage, and the mayor advanced and read a welcome. The prince replied and then shook hands with him and then with Lucetta as the mayor's wife. The ceremony only lasted a few minutes, and then the royal carriages continued on their journey. In the crowd watching stood a number of idle workers and women. There's some difference between what he is now and what he was when he first came, said one, looking at Farfrey with a jealous grin. And I should like to see that fancy lady, his wife, brought down, and perhaps I shall soon, said another. Everyone standing around knew what this speaker meant. The reading of Lucetta's letters had created a scandal which was spreading through Casterbridge like a fog. Yes, tonight we'll have our procession. Tonight, said Job to his friends in the inn. Having it come after the royal visit will make it even better, since they seem to rise so high today. To Job, the revenge he longed for seemed close at hand. After being so thoroughly dismissed by the mayor, Henchard started for home, saying to himself, how angry he looked when he drove me away. But he shall pay for it, and she shall be sorry. It must come to a fight, face to face, and then we'll see. Without any further thought, the fallen merchant, about to do something wild, ate a hasty dinner and then went out to find Farfrey. The crowds had gone. Henchard went down Corn Street to Farfrey's house. He knocked and left a message saying that he would be glad to see his employer in the yard as soon as possible. Nobody was at work. The workmen were having a holiday because of the royal visit. Henchard looked around and then said to himself aloud, it wouldn't be fair. I'm stronger than he is. Henchard went to a shed, found a piece of rope, and tied his left arm tightly against his body. Then he went up a ladder to the loft on the top floor of the corn store. The floor of the loft extended out only halfway across the building, and looking out over the edge, he saw there was a clear drop of 30 or 40 feet to the floor below. He backed off a few steps and waited. After a time, Farfrey appeared in the yard. He was dressed as if for a journey. Will you come up here? Henchard shouted. Yes, man, said Farfrey. I couldn't see you. What's wrong? A minute later, he was up the ladder and beside Henchard. What are you doing up here? He asked, coming forward. Henchard said nothing for a moment. Farfrey noticed that one of his arms was tied down to his side. Now, said Henchard quietly, we stand face to face, man to man, as equals. What does this all mean? Asked Farfrae simply, and turned as if to leave. Wait a bit, my lad. You shouldn't have done what you did today. I withstood your rivalry, which ruined me, but pushing me out of the way disgraced me, and that I won't stand. Farfrae looked annoyed at this. You had no business to be there, he said, as much as any of you did. How can you tell me I had no business there? You insulted royalty, Henchard, and it was my duty as chief magistrate and mayor to stop you. I am not here to argue. Wait until you cool down and you will see things the same way as I do. You may be the one to cool first, said Henchard grimly. Now here we are in this loft to finish that little fight you began this morning. There's the edge, 40 feet above the ground. One of us will send the other over. The master stays up here. If he likes, he may go down afterward and give the alarm that the other has fallen out by accident, or he may tell the truth. That's his business. As the strongest man, I have tied one arm back so as not to take advantage of you. Do you understand? Then here's at you. There was no time for Farfrae to do anything but fight, for Henchard had closed in on him at once. Farfrae was fighting for his life, and he knew it. Both men were breathing hard, and the fight went on for some time, back and forth. Neither man was able to gain the advantage, though Henchard was always the one attacking and Farfrae defending. At last, though, Henchard had Farfrae pinned down and dangerously close to the edge of the loft floor. Now, said Henchard breathlessly, this is the end of what you began this morning. Your life is in my hands. Then take it, said Farfrae. You have wished too long enough. Hancher looked down at him in silence, and their eyes met. Oh, Farfrae, that's not true, he said bitterly. God is my witness that no man ever loved another as I did you at one time. And now, though I came here to kill you, I cannot hurt you. Go and arrest me. Do what you will. I do not care what happened to me. He backed into the darkest part of the loft, loosened his arm, and threw himself into a corner on some sacks. Farfrae looked at him in silence, then went to the ladder and climbed down. Hencher tried to call him back, but he could not, and the young man's steps died away.